What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have some great news as undefeated three-division world champion, former undisputed junior welterweight world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the number one best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terence Bud Crawford, who has a record of 39 wins, no losses, no draw, 30 big wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8", with a 74-inch arm reach. He confirms what Errol Spence put out, an undefeated, unified, three-belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be top two, if not number one, definitely top five pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. And Errol the True Spence Jr., who has a record of 28 wins, no loss and no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 33 years of age, 5'9.5", with a 72-inch arm reach. Errol Spence, he recently put out a cryptic message to which Errol Spence, he stated that he's not going to apologize for being inactive, and in a few weeks it'll all make sense to everybody, right? Now, Terence Crawford, fans said, what's going on with Terence Crawford? He was being rumored to fight Alexis Roca, who is his WBO mandatory challenger. And then fans, shouts out to Nick J and my brother Tay Jones, because they responded to Terence Crawford and they said, what about the Errol Spence fight? And Terence Crawford responds and he says, we at the end. And then he put the winking emoji, right? He just said this. So he said, we at the end, right? Meaning that we almost there to make this fight happen, right? Now, Errol Spence, again, he put out the cryptic message saying he's not going to apologize for being inactive. But in a few weeks, everybody is going to understand why he's been inactive, essentially letting us know that he's going to have a big announcement coming up in a few weeks, and that it's going to clarify why he's inactive. Now, that can only mean that he's going to face off against Terence Bud Crawford in his next fight. Now, Errol Spence has been rumored and linked to facing off against former unified welterweight WBA, WBC world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. And that's Keith Thurman is 30 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 22 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'8", with a 69-inch arm reach. Now, Errol Spence, when he first won his world title back in May of 2017, when he beat former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer Special K. Kell Brook in the UK for his first title opportunity, just 2 months prior, Keith Thurman unified the belts against two-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia for the WBC and the WBA titles. And Errol Spence wanted that fight with Keith Thurman. He wanted to unify against Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman, he went on a hiatus. We didn't see Keith Thurman after he beat Danny Garcia until January of 2019, when he fought Josito Lopez and was already stripped of his WBC title, right? And then he lost July of 2019 to legendary 8-division world champion Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pacquiao, right? So he lost to Manny Pacquiao in July. So, and then he was going again from July to February of 2022 of last year, when he fought Mario Barrios, and then we haven't seen Keith Thurman again since then. The biggest fight to be made in the sport of boxing is Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, point blank and period. It has the most meaning to it, right? It's the most at stake. You have two of the top 5 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. It's not the biggest commercial fight. Now, I know a lot of people are saying Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia is the biggest fight in boxing. It's the biggest commercial fight, right? It's commercialized. But a meaningful fight with the most at stake is Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Both undefeated, both unified champions. Terence Crawford was undisputed. They both top 5 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. It's a lot at stake between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, right? And so this is the biggest fight to be made in the sport of boxing. And the time is now. Errol Spence is 33. He suffered 2 major car accidents in his career back after he defeated Sean Porter, 2-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, retired future Hall of Famer Sean Porter in September of 2019. He then suffered a horrific car accident in October 2019 that saw him out the ring for 14 months. He came back. He defeated Danny Garcia. Uh, then he suffered an eye injury. Then he came back when he was supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao. He was pulled out of that fight August of 2021. He got pulled out of that fight because he suffered a major eye injury. He was out the ring again for a year. He came back April of 2022. He defeated Yordenis Ugas in a unification, who defeated Manny Pacquiao in replacement of Errol Spence. And then he suffered another car accident December 10th of this year, and he's been out the ring again for another year. So time is not on his side, and Terence Crawford is 35 years of age. So time is not on neither one of these guys' side, right? The time is now to make this fight happen. And so it looks like this is the fight we're going to get. As, again, you see today, March 22nd, 2023 at 1:25 p.m., Terence Crawford lets it be known we at the end. And remember, Errol Spence, he put up a message, a cryptic message a few days ago, and he said he's not going to apologize for being inactive. Everybody's wondering what's next for Errol Spence. When are we going to see him back in the ring? Again, like I said, the whole Keith Thurman situation has Errol Spence, puts a sour taste in Errol Spence's mouth. He lets it be known over and over again he has zero interest in fighting, Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman then started playing games on that hiatus, saying he's going to come back, but he's not going to fight Errol Spence. Errol Spence going to get his opportunity one day. You get your opportunity one day, young pup. He was maneuvering around Errol Spence, and Keith Thurman also admitted that he dropped the ball and stated that Errol Spence was his big Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather fight. If you don't know, Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao was the biggest fight in boxing history. So he's saying that he looked at Errol Spence as his Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather type of opportunity in a massive fight, right? But it just didn't come to fruition because he actually got the fight with Manny Pacquiao and then he lost, right? And he was pushing Errol Spence to the side, brushing him off. Errol Spence is going to get his opportunity. But the PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, founder and advisor, and the team at the PBC, I don't know so much of if it's Al Heyman that's pushing for the fight or it's just, as a company as a whole. But they was putting up posts, and they put up a post with Keith Thurman and Errol Spence after Keith Thurman made his comeback. And they said, who wants to see Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman? To which Errol Spence went to the post and said the PBC need to take the L out of the lover. I'm never fighting him. Then he went back and doubled back and said, I mean what I say. When I said never, I mean never. Letting it be known he's not fighting Keith Thurman. Well, the WBC, World Boxing Council, President Mauricio Sulaiman, board of 32 members, they decided to place Keith Thurman as the mandatory WBC challenger to force Errol Spence to have to fight Keith Thurman. And so since then, Errol Spence, it was rumored to and reported that the fight could take place at 154 without Errol Spence's belts on the line. That's just letting you know Errol Spence has no interest in fighting Keith Thurman. So to fight him at a weight of 154 with no belts on the line is just sticking it to Keith Thurman. At the same time, the WBC is saying that they would allow that to happen and still satisfy his mandatory. Okay, so Errol Spence wins, he satisfied his mandatory in Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman wins, he wins no belt, right? So that's Errol Spence just solely sticking it to Keith Thurman, point blank and period, right? And so with that said, this is huge news, right? But again, there was reports that Terence Crawford could sign with Golden Boy Promotions to fight Alexis Roca, who's his WBO mandatory challenger. So there's still a possibility. We could, Errol Spence wants to come back in June. There was reports that Errol Spence and Keith Thurman is going to fight in May. We're getting to April and Errol Spence hasn't made an announcement. So maybe we're going to get Errol Spence and Keith Thurman and Terence Crawford and Errol Spence have an agreement already in place that they're going to fight each other immediately following, their next upcoming fight. So maybe Terence Crawford fights Alexis Roca in his next fight, right? And then Terence Crawford, Errol Spence fights Keith Thurman. They both win their upcoming fights. They get the ring rust off or, get active, and then they fight each other. Similar to what Gervonta Tank Davis recently did. Gervonta Tank Davis recently fought against Hector Garcia January 7th. But he actually announced his fight with Ryan Garcia before he even announced his fight with Hector Garcia. So we knew in November 10th, Gervonta Tank Davis announced that he's fighting Ryan Garcia in April. right? That was before he announced that he's fighting Hector Garcia January 7th, right? So that could be a similar situation where we have Terence Crawford and Errol Spence fighting, both fighting possibly in May or June, against Keith Thurman and Alexis Roca. And then possibly in like September, we getting Terence Crawford and Errol Spence already agreed upon. There's no more negotiations. Fight is done. Both got another fight in. Both got active. They start working towards that massive fight in September or October. Maybe even August, early as August, right? And then they have agreement. They start the promotions. They build up this massive fight, and it's on, right? But it looks like we're trending towards the direction of having Errol Spence face off against Terence Crawford, possibly in their next fight, right? So Terence Crawford is saying that he said that it's getting close, right, to being done. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. I can't wait. But let me know what y'all think. Drop a comment in the comment section. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all in one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.